No one is pleased when you stop pleasing. I'll say it again. No one is pleased when you stop pleasing. When you change your role, either by accident, circumstances, or intention or purpose, and when you stop absorbing, fixing, managing, performing, other people feel it. It changes your dynamic in your relationship. And they don't always love it, right? Because they can't depend on you in the same way. They can't use you in the same way. They have to reorient themselves. That can be extremely uncomfortable, especially at first. And that's okay. But for people who feel unsafe around other people being upset with them, other people not being okay, other people being uncomfortable, other people struggling, other people being mad at them, it is so disorienting. It is very challenging. It is very challenging. But the work is learning how to find peace with that. Life's too short for bad coffee or bad leadership. I'm Lindsay Yellen, executive leadership coach, coffee enthusiast, and former ad VP turned believer in leading from a place of possibility. On Unfiltered Leadership, we skip the buzzwords and dig into the messy, human, and powerful side of leadership with real conversations and practical takeaways. Now grab your mug. Let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to Unfiltered Leadership, and I am so glad that you are here. Today's episode's a little bit different, a little bit special, a little bit personal. It's my birthday, or it was yesterday on June 7th, and it just really felt like the right time for reflection and realness. No frameworks, no tactics here, just me reflecting on another trip around the sun. I felt really called to it. I was doing it on my own, and I felt like there's probably something here that someone needs to hear and it's worth sharing. And, it comes from me just looking back and realizing that this past year has truly been the hardest of my life. And I mean that. I mean, like, it really rocked and redefined me in ways I never could have predicted. I want to know, like, have you had one of those years? Are you in it? Can you look back and say, oh, I remember that moment. Well, this year has been it for me. And although I'm still very much in it, it feels like the right time to look back at it. Especially around one part, which I'll get into. But this year was so hard because I had an incredibly challenging pregnancy, which I've talked about on this podcast and in my newsletter, being open about that experience and what it taught me and how it really challenged me. I also became a first-time mom, right? Family of 3. There's a lot there. And dealing with a lot of other life things. Life was lifing to parenting parents, aging parents, family dynamics, career stuff. All of it, folks, just came at me at one time. A lot of very tough situations. And I really had to slow down in ways that never felt optional, before. I had to say no a lot, especially in the era and timing of the difficulty in my pregnancy. Like, it was not optional at all. I had no choice. I had to just full on stop. And it forced me to redefine what success actually looks like, which I'm still doing. I had to figure out, who am I when all the things I normally do are stripped away? I didn't have access to coaching and connecting with people in the same way I had to my workouts and physical movement, to showing up for everyone else in the way that I wanted to and prided myself on being the dependable one, the one who could carry and shoulder all the things without wavering. All of that gone, or scaled back in a way that I didn't anticipate. And it was challenging, to say the least. So in that stripping away, something became very clear to me, and that's what I want to focus on today. And that is, my need to please people had been really quietly running the show for a long, long time, and it has been costing me. And that became abundantly clear in my discomfort in this season of slowing down, saying no, choosing myself, not being able to do and operate the way I always had. I'm not saying I just found out that I had a strong pleaser or need to please in the last year. Like, no, I started to wake up to that years and years ago, especially through coach training and coaching. And I've been kind of reckoning with, how has that gotten me to where I am? How does that impact what I say yes to, what I say no to, how I show up, how I move through the world? But this forced me to confront it and challenge it in a way that I never had before, and it just became crystal clear that my default operating system needed a reboot. I needed to change it, and I could no longer let the pleaser run the show in the way that it had, whether consciously or not. And so today I wanna walk you through, I'm guessing there's a lot of people listening here who are high achieving pleasers like me. A lot of folks that I coach have strong pleasers. A lot of my friends and people in my orbit, we talk about this all the time, and they are also actively unlearning their default response of wanting to please and make others comfortable at their own expense, making sure that everybody is happy and no one's mad at them, or, dismissing their own needs and reactions for the sake of keeping others comfortable or happier. And we are actively together trying to unlearn that, choose different, and sit in the discomfort that comes with that because it is so uncomfortable, right? It's so uncomfortable. And when you've been operating that way, for so long and have found safety and convinced yourself of safety in that. Um, it's very vulnerable. It feels very disorienting to start to choose something different. And this year really forced me to confront that. So I want to walk you through three moments, three pivotal, very uncomfortable, clarifying moments where I started to wake up to what I call my inner pleaser and the grip that it really had on my life. And then I want to just share where I'm taking this work as I step into a new year as a first time mom. And honestly, as someone who is very much a work in progress, just like you, just like all of us. So let's get into it. So the first moment, the first story takes me back to my career in client services in the advertising agency world. And if you've ever worked in client services, if those of you who are in account management, right, you already know that it is honestly the perfect job for a pleaser. And I've come to really see this clearly. You are literally rewarded for making everybody happy. Your career advancement depends on people liking you, on wanting to work with you. I mean, I remember a moment when I was introduced to some of my last clients I worked with when in the industry, and I didn't even realize it, but I was on a new account, and I was put in front of actually what it proved to be a very difficult client, which is actually the bigger story is about this client. And I heard afterwards, it was like a meeting, a strategy meeting, I can't remember. But afterwards they were like, "Oh, he loved you. He thought you were great. He really liked you. You passed." And I was like, "What?" Like, I didn't even realize that was a test. But then I was like, "Okay, he liked me. Thank God I'm safe. I'm going to be okay." And so many of those moments are in this career where it is literally your job to understand and to constantly be reading the room of all these different people, personalities, capabilities, and say, what do people need? How do we get to consensus? How do we ensure that the client is happy? How do you make sure the creative team is happy? How do you manage up to leadership and say things the right way? You're constantly calibrating yourself to make sure that everything is steady and moves along. People are happy. Things are, productive. Like it is 100%. So I was so good at it. I was so good. I thrived on the rush of solving problems that left everybody satisfied. I thrived on being someone that people love to work with, that clients loved, the good feedback. Like, man, oh man. But also that came at a cost. That came at a cost, a lot of anxiety, a lot of insecurity, a lot of frequently over reading, over indexing, and making sure that everybody was okay and disregarding my own needs, my own feelings, and often putting me in a place of choosing to be safe and quiet, um, and making sure everyone was comfortable or certain people were happy, that it came at the expense of other people and the expense of honoring my values. So that's what this story is about. I remember one moment that I can't shake, and I'm guessing there's a lot of you out there who probably had a moment similar. I was on a strategy client, a social strategy client with the core client, this one that I was just talking about. And this client was someone who is known for being very confrontational, unpredictable. One moment loved us, the other moment hated us, pissed at us, like so disorienting, especially for somebody who finds safety in making sure that other people like them and are happy. I felt very unsafe around this client. And so our strategy team was presenting work or a point of view, like going back and forth and defending something with real conviction with these clients. And this client was just relentless, very challenging, disrespectful, not budging, just not being at all in a place of connection and conversation with the team and just tearing them apart. In my job in the moment as a senior account leader was to step in, to defend my team, to mediate. And I said nothing. I remember so vividly being completely frozen, terrified, right? Paralyzed into inaction. I didn't want to sound stupid. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know when to inject. I was terrified by the client's anger. I really felt the team had it, but that was just an excuse because I didn't know what to say. I was worried what they'd think of me. I was worried about siding with the team and making the clients mad and lose their opinion or positive opinion of me, which obviously is not true. Like it was not productive at all. So I stayed silent and I really let my team down. I still, like, even as I'm talking about it, I feel like the shame like bubbling in my stomach. And they told me afterwards, they're like, we really needed you. I just felt like I still feel the deep shame of that because I really prided myself on being there for my team and defending them and supporting them. And I let them down. And I had violated something very core to me, that value of integrity, of being that dependable leader that showed up for them, that they could trust, and that would help them get through the muck of hard moments. And instead, I just faded into the background, not helping anyone in that situation. And what did I do that for? To stay safe, right? To keep the peace, to avoid somebody being upset with me, which happened regardless. So that was a moment I really realized, this way of operating that got me so far in my career, that made me such a strong and likable and successful account person, is now actively holding me back from becoming the leader my team and clients need, a leader that makes me proud. It's getting in the way of my values. And it's getting in the way of the people I care about. And that's actually non-negotiable. Like, this isn't working anymore. This needs to change. And so that was the start of the awakening for me. I can't say I turned it around. You can't just like suddenly stop your pleaser from jumping in these moments of when fear, steps in, when uncertainty steps in, when you're really worried and feeling unsafe. You're going to default into what is going to make you feel steady and comfortable. You're going to default into a way of operating into, your pleaser, your controller taking over to manage these situations for you because you don't feel like you're capable. So it doesn't happen overnight that I'm suddenly like, I'm no longer going to be a pleaser. I'm no longer like, I'm going to operate totally different in these moments. That doesn't happen. But I began to truly awaken to the impact of it and start to actively, decide that I need to choose something different. I need to show up differently in these moments. I need to hold myself accountable to something else. So the strategy or the lesson here is that a strategy that once perhaps fueled your success, that got you so far, can quietly become the thing that starts to undermine you. There's a strategy that has fueled your success, that has gotten you so far, can quietly become the thing that undermines it, that undermines your success. And when your need to be liked overrides your values, you've already lost something that matters more. You're sacrificing too much. And that starts with the awareness of what are your values, of being present in these moments to recognize when you're losing too much, when you're turning against yourself for the sake of the comfort, the sake of somebody else's needs. That's when it's time to start to reevaluate, name what's going on, and put yourself in a place of choice to start to choose and show up differently. And that was a defining moment for me to start to understand, to meet, to recognize my pleaser and realize something needs to change here. Moving on to my second story. The first one is really a reflection of, how my integrity was compromised in moments in my career through the pleaser and how the awakening that it isn't working for me anymore. The second is a bit different. It's a little softer, but it landed as reflecting and in the moment just as hard for me. So a few years ago, I started doing some nervous system work and basically awakening to understanding what dysregulates me, what regulation feels like, learning to notice these things and what stress feels like in my body and how to meet that stress, that anxiety, those really hard moments with compassion instead of just pushing through it and shutting it down. So, similarly, even that moment in the first story, how not to let that dysregulation and fear take over, but how do I recognize it, notice it, and show up for myself with compassion, not judgment. So, this is a story really about like reclaiming my ease in moments when my pleaser wants to put me into overdrive, into like control mode. So, I remember sitting at a dinner party with my closest friends. We're all in the backyard of a good friend's house, having like a great little like reunion gathering. It was a beautiful summer evening and there's great food and great conversation. And these are friends I've known for like 20 years, right? And it's one of those moments you just want to bottle up. And we are going around and we decided to play this game where you just pull out little questions to trigger conversation and connection in a new way that we hadn't done before, to learn something new about ourselves despite all of our history. And I noticed something as we're sitting around and people are starting to kind of pull the questions. And I was physically leaning forward on this bench, on this table, scanning the table, looking at everyone's faces, asking things like, is she okay? Are people uncomfortable? How do I make sure that this is successful? Are people feeling awkward? Is this activity awkward? I was I was in full management mode. I was monitoring and assessing, ready to swoop in and smooth over any friction or discomfort, before it could even breathe. Like it felt like it was my job to control the comfort level of everybody in this moment. My body was really tense. My heart was racing. And there was this low pulsing, anxious energy running underneath this moment for me that really should just be pure joy and relaxation and connection. These are some of the people I feel the most comfortable around that know me so well. Why was I sitting in this place of grasping and striving to ensure that everybody else was okay? When did I realize that was my job, or took on that responsibility, that was my job, that everyone else's comfort was my responsibility? So I did something radical for me in the moment because I had that awareness through some of the work I've been doing, through knowing that I have these pleasing tendency and connecting to what this type of dysregulation and stress feels like in my body. I took a breath and I reminded myself, these women are responsible for their own experience. It's not my job to manage this room. It's not my job. And I actually physically sat back in my chair. I remember this. So I physically leaned back and like let myself relax. And you know what? It was fine. It was fine. It was totally fine. It was more than fine. It was actually better because I was finally present. And I allowed the moment, the activity, the connection to happen how it was meant to, versus trying to architecture it, to construct it, to control it. I could be present versus trying to perform. And that moment made me wonder about all the times before, all the dinners, all the gatherings, all the introductions, all the conversations, all the coffee dates, like where I was so busy leaning forward, scanning for danger, trying to control and create something meaningful, trying to control the emotional temperature of a room that that I wasn't actually in it. I was trying to control so much that I was missing it or not letting it actually unfold the way that it was meant to, not allow people to show up in the way that they were meant to or connect in a way that is authentic because I was too busy trying to manufacture it. Can you relate to that? Do you feel responsible for the energy in a room, to the how the moment comes to life, to other people's experiences, that you take yourself out of it and actually over control, that it takes away the magic? God, I did that so frequently. And that all came from a place of protection, of fear, of wanting to make sure that everyone was okay, that I made things probably not okay and not as comfortable. I was cutting off real connection in the name of just trying to manage that connection. So the lesson there that I reflect on and carry forward is when you're so focused on managing other people's experiences, you stop being able to actually share in it. You become someone grasping for reassurance instead of someone who creates it. I was trying so hard to create safety. I was probably creating an environment of unsteadiness. And people could sense that. We can read energy, it's palpable, it's contagious. People knew that. They probably felt my striving energy and it got in the way of a real connection and meaningful moments. And I'm super present to that now. And I tell my pleaser, I see what you're trying to do. You want so bad for everyone to have the best time. But by trying to create and control the best time, you're taking away from it. So, how do I spend more of these meaningful moments in a place of leaning back, focusing on calming, being present, and trusting others around me, trusting the moment versus trying to manufacture it? My final story here gets into how the pleaser can get in the way of honoring my needs and deprioritizing my needs for the sake of others. And so, the first story was about, getting in the way of my integrity and my values. The second, how it disrupts my ease. And now about needs, because your needs matter, my needs matter. And so often than not, we deprioritize them for the sake of others' comforts or other needs being met that feel more important than our own. So in this third moment, I'm still in it, right? So I'm not here to give a distinct certain moment story, but rather to reflect on something. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful with how I tell it and how I reflect it because I'm still navigating it. But I want to be real and honest because I have a feeling a lot of you are too. So my whole life, I've worn being the steady one like this badge of honor. And I've been the strong, the dependable one, the one who doesn't add to the pile. I really did, without recognizing it, thought that vulnerability, my own vulnerability was weakness, not vulnerability in others, but showing mine was a weakness. And I had to be strong. I mean, I even tried to be so physically strong to communicate that I was a strong person, which I now come to know that I'm redefining what strength is. But I've always been the one that shows up. I'm the one who's always available, the one who doesn't complain or put my problems and struggles or vulnerabilities onto others because I want to be available to help them. And it comes from a place of such meaningfulness. Like it comes from a place of so wanting to be supportive and helpful and loving and believing that I really do have not just a passion, but a gift in being able to do that. So I've made sure that I'm so open and available to others that I have closed myself off to what I need or to getting the help often that I need or communicating what I need. And this past year, as I've kind of shared earlier, I couldn't do that anymore. I just couldn't be that person anymore. Even if I wanted to, it was not accessible. The capacity wasn't there. I couldn't listen for hours. I couldn't always say yes. I couldn't carry the same load without help, without showing the strain. I couldn't achieve in the same way, right? And I expected the guilt that I felt, and it was there. It was there, the feeling of not being enough, of letting people down, if wondering if I was being a good friend, a good enough sister or daughter or partner. But what surprised me most and what I wasn't really prepared for was the quiet signal that I did get from others. That surface level support that had something else underneath it, the subtle of like, this isn't who you used to be, and I'm recalibrating to it. And I'm not saying I don't support you and understand you, but I don't know how to be, I'm a little almost like disappointed in this, or I don't know how to orient myself with not having the same steadiness from you. Um, yeah, I'm still making sense of it. That's why I'm talking with such hesitancy and pausing because I don't know what's totally true in it. Besides, I know that this is something I'm experiencing. And I keep coming back to something that my best friend recently told me that she got from her own therapist. And I haven't been able to let it go. And I have a feeling some of you need to hear this too, that No one is pleased when you stop pleasing. I'll say it again. No one is pleased when you stop pleasing. When you change your role, either by accident, circumstances, or intention or purpose, and when you stop absorbing, fixing, managing, performing, other people feel it. It changes your dynamic in your relationship. And they don't always love it, right? Because they can't depend on you in the same way. They can't use you in the same way. They have to reorient themselves. That can be extremely uncomfortable, especially at first. And that's okay. But for people who feel unsafe around other people being upset with them, other people not being okay, other people being uncomfortable, other people struggling, other people being mad at them, it is so disorienting. It is very challenging. It is very challenging. But the work is learning how to find peace with that, to move through the discomfort of others' disappointment, knowing that on the other side of it is a life that is finally genuinely yours. And that's what I had to do in all the moments I had to be in bed versus working or sitting on long phone calls, having to cancel travel plans, having to not be the same role or prioritize other people's needs or problems and give the same energy as before. In those moments of introspection and slowing down and disappointment in myself and confusion and discomfort, I was able to actually recognize and admit that I have needs that need to be met right now. I had to ask for help in a way that I hadn't before. I had to ask for grace. I had to say to people, I am struggling. I am not okay. I'm the one who needs help now. I've actually had to say that multiple times, which is just even so wild for me. But I had to say, I am the one who needs help. Can you please show up for me? And this is what I need. Or I just need you to give me some grace and some slack, right? And they're not always ready and willing to do that, or they might not know how to do that. And that is okay, right? So I'm going to say it again. The work is learning to find peace with that, to move through that discomfort, to disappointing others, knowing that on the other side is the life that is finally, genuinely yours, that you deserve. A life where you can actually bear witness to what you need, be comfortable in acknowledging those needs, asking for help when you need them, and knowing how much energy you actually have towards others. So you are doing it from a place of support, in love and connection, not striving and pleasing and fear of not being enough, not showing up enough, fear that you won't be loved as much if you do not play that same role as you had in the past. Because you do not need to be a certain role to give a certain amount of yourself in order to be worthy of love or worthy of your needs being met. But that is a big order to unlearn and relearn and to live a life in that way. I know it because I'm in it. So let's walk forward together, but you deserve it. We all deserve it. And if you're feeling it or this resonates with you come join me in the muck. I'll continue to revisit this. And speaking of so, as I go into this next year, my first full year of motherhood, still mid unraveling, still figuring this out, still confronting, integrating, understanding my pleas, or not from a place of shame and anger, but of like, you're a part of me that has helped me so much. Thank you. I'm proud of what you have done in helping me navigate this world to be safe and to understand and orient in it. But your role is no longer helpful in the same way. So I need to integrate you differently. And I need to there are times when you want to take over the driver's seat, then I need to put you in the back seat because it's sacrificing too much now. And I don't want my daughter to grow up thinking that she needs to put other people's needs, comfort, happiness above her own. And she's going to be looking at me to model that. And so that starts now in choosing something different. But I'm still in it and I'm not perfect. And it is a big thing to unlearn and habits to reset. So I'm giving you the permission to do that too. But as I'm still figuring it out, my intention is simple. I'm going to stay in this work. I want to keep my eyes open, my awareness high, my grace big, my compassion, overflowing as much as I possibly can. I want to trust that the tension I feel is actually a sign that something real is shifting. And I want to practice, speaking of compassion, finding compassion for myself and for others when discomfort moves through a room and I feel that old reflex to make it stop. How do I sit in that discomfort from a place of love of you're doing the work, it'll be okay, you'll be okay. You're enough as you are right now. Keep going. Right? So here's what I want to leave you with. Wherever you are in your own version of this, just because you've always done something one way doesn't mean it is the only way. And just because a strategy once that kept you safe and kept you going, made you successful, doesn't mean that it still serves you. And you are allowed to redefine that and try to practice something different. At any point, you get to decide that your integrity, your ease, and your own needs matter. You don't have to earn love and belonging to make everyone around you comfortable. That's not your job. That's not the deal, even if it felt like it for a really long time. So, what will your life look like if you keep letting your pleaser lead? Right? Where will you be in 10 years? Where will you be at your next birthday if you continue to let that part of you take control and make the decisions? What could it look like if you didn't? Right? What could it look like if you didn't? Imagine that because you deserve it. I'm doing this work right alongside you. How about we check in again next year and along the way, of course. But let's walk forward together, be in the muck, be in the hard, be in the discomfort, knowing that we can handle it. And the other side of that is so worth it. It's so worth it. So thank you again for getting unfiltered with me, for sitting with me in this as I share some meaningful moments and the messiness I'm still in. It's always an honor to walk through this with you. So go get yourself a fresh cup of coffee. You deserve it. Touch some grass, breathe some fresh air, call a friend, connect, love on yourself, and just have a great day learning to let go of your need to please. Till soon.